The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Leo Connors and welcome to The Ring and All Other Sports. Don't mind my voice, I was at a couple wrestling shows over the weekend. I got a very special guest, professional wrestling referee, Craig Cailler. How are you?
Good, yeah. How are you?
Good, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, we got a lot to talk about. I actually wanted to bring up something first that me and you just talked about.
All right.
I didn't know. We're gonna do some plugs for some upcoming shows and stuff. So on March 19th, Proving Grounds running their show. The Montero Leader 2, we talked about it on the last week's episode with Todd Graham. But during the day at Nick's Comics in Danvers, Anthony Green is going to be signing autographs. So if you're in the area, make sure you go see AG and tell him Craig sent you.
That'd be great.
All right? Also on the 19th, Pop-Up Wrestling is running a show in Barica at the Elks. I'm actually going to be there doing the concessions. Atlantic Pro Wrestling's got a show in Newburyport on the same date, the 19th, where I'm sending Maria to do that show, and I'll be in Barica. And then NCW is running a show on the following week on March 25th in Bristol, Rhode Island. And then 2 weeks after that, or is it 2 weeks, right? And April 8th, they'll be back in Dedham. Northeast Championship Wrestling. I went to their last show and was blown away.
I heard you talking to Todd about it last episode.
It was incredible. From top to bottom, the whole show was fantastic.
A lot of good wrestling talent in this area.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Craig, let's get right into this.
All right.
I like to do the beginning, a little get-to-know-you interview. Where'd you grow up?
In Tewksbury, where I live, right outside Lowell,
I grew up in Lowell on the Tewksbury line, Craig.
Went to UMass Lowell for my undergrad. I marched in a drum corps out of Lowell called the Buccaneers.
Nice.
And then, coincidentally, I moved up to the Spartans, which are out of here in Nashua. So both towns you were in, I followed you, kind of preceded you there.
Nice. Now, let me ask you, when you were in the drum, what is it, drum roll?
The drum corps.
The drum
bugle corps,
Did you ever do things at the Cailler Stadium?
Yeah.
Because I went to all those things, especially when I was a kid.
Yep. So it was big. So drum corps was big in the 70s.
Yeah.
It was biggest to baseball. Like
wow,
Little League baseball.
I didn't know that.
Music and art, as you could tell with wrestling in the area.
Right.
Anything artsy kind of died over the late 80s, early 90s things. So drum corps kind of took a hit in this area and not enough options for kids. They anytime a school budget gets drained, art and music are the first two to go.
Right.
So
it's a shame too.
It's anything entertainment. It's just disposable to some parents, which is sad because a lot of the people that you see today, especially in wrestling, are people who are artsy and musically inclined people, or especially a lot of graphic designers, including me.
Right.
A lot of graphic designers, which is why you see some great stuff coming out of like JC and Todd, both have graphic design skills, and other people who do that for like Chaotic and stuff, right? So there's all kinds of graphic designers who have no outlet and are self-trained because schools kind of took it away.
You know, it's weird too, is I didn't realize how many wrestlers actually are musicians too. Yeah. I mean, literally, there's so many.
Yeah, there's bands full of people. People play guitar on the side.
Todd's pretty good too.
Absolutely, he could sing and play. Yeah. And I was a drummer, so I'm part of it too.
Right.
Yeah. I think there's just that type of person, that creative type of person. That's part of what wrestlers are too. Yeah. You have to tell a story. You can't tell a story with a math problem.
No, definitely can't. All right. Now, when was the first time you saw pro wrestling?
So I was probably 5th grade. My first show was an NWA show at the Boston Garden. Main event was the Four Horsemen versus Dusty, Nikita, Ivan, and probably I forget who was it Tully? It was probably who was it? I'm thinking now. I forget it. So
Magnum?
Yes, Magnum TA. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
T's, yeah. Magnum TA, yeah. So that's a hell of a main event for your first show.
Sure.
I went with a bunch of my friends. My father bought like low sheets up top, and then there was just kind of empty seats, and we all just kind of walked down, and the cage looked 100 feet tall.
Oh, I can imagine.
To a 50-year-old, yeah. So that was my first show. From there, really just was like a WWE guy, but I had the luxury of Saturday mornings to be able to flip between WWF to World Class to UWF, because back then they all ran up here at some point.
Yeah.
So you got to see the NWA team, you got to see all the people that are in other groups, right? So I got that exposure and had the ability to see a lot of different wrestling as a kid.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so started there, had a backyard, of course, like a lot of people. We used to wrestle in 5th grade at recess. And the teachers would just walk by us and be like, all right, they're not killing each other, so we're going to let them go, which is crazy. So we used to backyard wrestle. And as I got into my late teens and early 20s, we still had a group, and that's kind of how we did it more for entertaining.
Right.
But we started training. One of the guys that was with us went to Jeff for a bit. He was Hal Gore.
Okay.
Sort of Al Gore. He was Hal Gore.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we were training off of a trainee. Until about 99, Brutal Bob sent emails around to a group of people and said, he was looking for kids to train. So my group turned out to be his first training class, and they all drove to Chicopee every Wednesday night to Kevin Landry's ring.
Wow.
And trained there. And then that's when I just said I was going to be a promoter. My more colorful words, my butt doesn't go over my head. That's kind of, I grew up with juvenile arthritis when I was in my teens.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have the capability with my hands and strength to really trust somebody else in my hands, right? So that's when I decided I was going to do the promoting thing. So Bob and I worked together on that.
And now that was when he first opened Slam Tech.
That was Slam Tech, his first class, right? It was in Worcester. And then eventually he and Sonny built like a wooden ring up in a mill here in Nashua.
Yep.
And then the guys moved up there for a bit. So that's when kind of Sonny came in the picture. And,
Nice.
Bob and Sonny were the guys that are pretty much responsible for everything that I had.
Nice.
Based on training and
Who
history.
else was in the class with you? Anybody that we'd know?
Yeah, so let's see. There was a kid who was, so the guys that worked for me, the backyarders that worked for me that transitioned over, one of the big ones who stuck around was Atlee Green. He used to run Elkmania.
Yep.
So he used to be a wrestler.
Great guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember him wrestling.
Yeah, so he used to wrestle for me. A lot of the other ones kind of faded out.
Yeah.
Within my promotion, Bob had a good mix.
Yeah.
So we had both Johnny's Royal and Idol.
Yeah.
We had Tarzan.
I got all their names down.
I had Heresy for a show. I had Rick Fuller for a show. So they're all like great guys. Like the Jeff Costa group that kind of moved down, bringing in Johnny Idol from West Coast, and then I brought in Kevin, and then we had Aaron Morrison,
Nice.
and his name is El Chi on Facebook now, but he was Debonair Cruz.
Okay.
So we had a lot of the West Coast
I haven't heard
guys.
that name in a long time.
Yeah.
Debonair Cruz.
Yeah, so Heresy, I brought a photo book at the NCW holiday bash that we had, and one of the pictures was of him, and he took a picture and he sent it to him, and he's like, yeah, that was like my second match.
Wow.
So that's how, you're talking, so I started, Bob was about in 99.
Yeah.
So I ran about 7 shows between 2000 to 2001-ish, and then punched out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into that for sure. I just want to know, were your friends and family into wrestling too when you were a kid? Obviously, you said your friends were. What about family members? No,
it was my own. My dad entertained me.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was like, all right, we'll go to a show. I mean, that was great. I think the best, wrestling, everybody talks about favorite matches and everything. For me, wrestling's about moments.
Right.
So like one of those moments that I remember is going to the Lowell Auditorium for WrestleMania 3 with my father.
Wow.
Watching Hogan and Bundy.
Yeah.
I think that was 3, right? With the blue cage, the new blue cage. But it was on, what did they call it at that time? It was on satellite. It was a satellite closed caption. Closed circuit.
Yes,
closed circuit. Yeah.
Yep.
So they had the big satellite in the back of the thing picking it up. Yeah.
That's
it was just a
wild.
dome full of people. But that's how it was. And then it turned into buying pay-per-view and getting the VCR. like renting the VCR, putting the tape in, recording it,
Yep.
so you'd have it when you got your own VCR.
Oh, so
eventually.
you did the double VCR? Me too.
Oh, I
did
had to
this-
rent it. I
Oh,
rented
okay.
it and then
Did you?
taped
Yeah.
it. And then when we finally got our VCR, I was like, oh, look, I got a library. I can go back and watch these things.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Who were some of your favorites when you first started watching wrestling?
So from TV, Dusty.
Yeah, that's what I mean. For the most part,
Yeah,
TV.
Dusty, Nikita. I loved Nikita Koloff for some reason. Even though he's a Russian, I wasn't supposed to like him.
Right.
Yeah, Nikita Koloff, the Road Warriors, those Southern guys. WWE, was the Hogan, the Savages, like the popular people.
Oh, I loved Savage and Sucker.
Yeah, I mean, in Steamboat.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked character. As later on, I started liking characters, right? I started liking Papa Shango.
Right.
Right. In today, it kind of works in today. Like I like Danhausen. I like what he turned his character into. It's not normal. He's not a super built guy.
Right.
Right. He's just he turned into something that caught fire. Right.
Very entertaining dude.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, just talking, he entertains me big time.
It depends on you. Got to put him in a good situation too.
Right.
Right. I've seen interviews where sometimes he's trying to make something of it, and it does. But when he's on his own, he's pretty. He's good. Yeah, he's good.
Before we go any further, I just want to say that I hope Scott Hall kicks out. He's having some health issues. I know what's going on. I just want to say I hope he kicks out because I really do. The guy's a legend.
Yep.
Razor Ramon, if you guys don't know that that he's Scott Hall, but he's in the hospital. He's had a few heart attacks. So I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he kicks out.
Yeah, I mean they were that Attitude Era, right?
Yeah.
That was when I started getting into actual professional wrestling, right? And that was the Attitude Era. That was them coming aboard, the WCW starting to pick up and challenging them. But it was all that, I think, I give credit to Heyman and ECW driving all of that stuff, right? That was the time where we were going to all the ECW shows in the area with Waltham and Burlington.
You went to the Burlington one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, after you finish, I got to ask you something because I was there.
Oh, yeah. The people throwing the chairs in the ring.
Yeah.
With what we think is intoxicated Tim McNeely and company.
That's who it was. Is that who the ECW guys were fighting?
I believe it was Tim McNeely, yeah.
I did not know it was a worker. I just figured it was a fan.
I think it was, there were more than one. I can't remember who else was with them, but we remember Tim McNeely because we were local fans of Tim McNeely then. And then it was just like, it just started with shouting, but it was right after everybody started throwing the chairs in the ring for Funk. And it was, so everybody in Burlington was like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to do it. And I was like, oh no, I'm in the front row. I'm like, I'm seeing chairs like fly over my head. I'm like, this is not going to be good. And then they were yelling at them. And then they started, and I'm like, oh man, this is, oh boy.
Now, when you were in the front row, you remember when they came out, where were you? I was all the way to the right like this. Like if you came out like this, I was in this row, first seat.
We were not near the entrance. We were kind of in the kiddie corner.
Okay.
If I'm looking at the ring, McNeely I remember he was to my right. I remember leaning against the rail and them throwing Tommy Dreamer into the railing. And I remember the railing getting into my gut. And I was like, oh, I'm going to back up now. Thank you.
Right.
And then, so then everything went to hell in a handbasket there. But yeah, ECW in the area was amazing. With the mass transit, I was in like the fifth row for that.
That was Rich Palladino's first day working for ECW.
Lovely. Yeah, that must have been a great event.
A lot of people were there.
Oh, yeah. JC was there. I talked to JC about it all the time from NCW. That was a very colorful event. I thought the kid was going to die.
You know Dave Padula, right?
Yeah.
On this show, Dave Padula said he was supposed to go that night and he couldn't go. And he swears that he wouldn't have let Eric get in the ring because they were good friends, I guess.
Yeah.
Dave was really good friends with them. He felt so bad that he wasn't there.
Yeah, it was just bad communication all around.
Yeah. Well, they lied. I'm not trying to talk bad about the kid because it's sad. It is.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to be in the sport. And if you're a wrestler locally, you want to get a shot.
That's a tough way to get introduced into the sport.
Yeah.
Like almost dying. Yeah.
Yeah. That guy's crazy.
Yeah. And then there was Waltham where Sabu did the flip from the chair to the rope back and hit his face on the upside table.
Yeah.
He had his face on the table leg. He just grabbed his face, rolled out of the ring. And there was like 3 seconds of like dead silence in the whole place. We all thought he'd like smashed his face. He wound up cracking his jaw or something like that. But he rolled over to RVD and Fonzie and told him something, and then they finished the match. But it looked like the table leg went right into his eye.
Wow.
It was there was lots of things that and this was just local too. I mean, not even that.
Right. I feel so bad for that guy. He should be a multi-millionaire. You know what I mean? Really.
But again,
for the way he put his body on the line, night after night.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I was in my 20s and I looked at what they did. I obviously I loved it because I kept going back. Right, being in my late 40s now, I look back and I go, wow, yeah, you didn't have to do that.
No. He didn't.
Like, you see, hindsight is always 20/20, right? So you see all the damage that it did to all of them, and some of them passing early,
right?
And some of them you watch some of them walk, and you're like, oh boy, I mean, like, yeah, you didn't have to do that for me.
No.
But back then I wasn't saying it, right? So I'm kind of a hypocrite, but
it's what you wanted to see, though.
But that's what they wanted to do too,
right? Exactly.
Right?
No one made them do it.
Right. I mean, but at some point I'm just like, yeah, you guys should have stopped after your fifth or sixth concussion, and
no doubt.
It's a passion, right? That's what all the thing is. And I had that conversation with Bob one day as we were walking Woburn handing out flyers. And he has a degree. Bob has a degree from UMass. And I was like, why didn't you ever do anything with your degree? And then I looked back on that years later, and I was like, wow, what a butthead I was. Because Bob had a passion for wrestling.
Right.
And it wasn't that he didn't want to do anything.
And he still does.
Totally.
He still does.
But at that time, when I was saying to him was, why didn't you do something with your college degree? And he was trying to merge his business degree with the passion that he had.
Yeah.
But I looked years back and I was like, wow, what a butthead. I was like, he is doing something. Like, he's combining the two together. Like, it doesn't have to be a 9-to-5 job sitting behind a desk.
Right. I thought the building in Dedham was going to blow up the other night. Did you see it?
It was good.
Sheldon and Bob.
Yeah.
They hugged. It was, which I think is great because they were friends for a long time. They had a falling out. To see that made me feel really good.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, a lot of people that worked with Sheldon maybe had disagreements, and it may not be Sheldon, it may just be the way that business works.
Right.
So I'm not pointing it to anybody, right? But it is nice to, it's nice to see Sheldon around.
Yeah.
It's nice to see Bob around. Those are guys of the generation that I started with.
Right.
So I had a big gap in the middle.
Both great guys.
Totally, both stuck around.
I don't know Bob well. I'm just saying I have friends that know Bob well, and I heard he's nothing but a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, Bob had his problems, and he'll tell you about that earlier in his career, but he certainly figured it out.
Right.
And one of the things in wrestling that I always try to figure out is what makes something catch fire. Right. So when Bob first had his Hangs with Bob thing, and all of a sudden it just snowballed into what he's doing today, and I was like, why did Hangs with Bob just catch fire? I don't know. Right. But it was just the way that things just happen. Like, you do things in the ring, and people say catchphrases, or people do things, and then the people catch on to it, and then you just roll with it. For me, for what I do for a living, and understanding, people who use software, I do user interface design. So the cognitive, abilities of people and how to catch on and why things catch on. Right. It's understanding why. Like, I want to know why and how do you replicate it. Sometimes you can't. Right. Like, catchphrases are easy to replicate. Find something like Nick Foley, right? Get into Sacramento, California. Yeah. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts. Right. Yep. So that one's easy. But yeah. I mean, just like Orange Cassidy, he doesn't say anything.
Nothing.
But he catches on like fire. But why? Why?
Right.
Right. And Danhausen was the same wrestler as he was then and now. Right. Except he puts makeup on. Yep. And he creates a voice for it, and he creates his persona online, and over the pandemic, made himself.
Big time.
But why? Like, I want to know why all these things happen. Like, what made that change, and how do you replicate it? How do you create more stars? But sometimes it's just who you are.
Right. And it's sad because the WWE seems to not want to make stars anymore. And they're the biggest company in the world. Yeah. For wrestling, at least.
I don't know. Vince has been doing it for a while.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't. Vince is the smartest guy around. I'm not the type of fan, Craig, that picks at things. Yeah. Whatever I see. I'm not the guy that goes, oh, he should have did this, or he should. I'm not a wrestler. Yeah. I come to a show, I dispel belief, and I enjoy the show.
Yeah. I like wrestling. Yeah. I like characters.
Right.
Most of that stemmed from Vince. Right. From what he did with the Papa Shangos of the world and stuff like that. Right. Yeah. I think me personally, my daughter and I, we watch AEW pretty regularly. She has her favorite characters, and to me, it's more of what I enjoy versus. And I love WWE, and I took her to WWE when she was little. Yeah. But I think we both kind of migrated over to AEW versus WWE. Right. Vince always had his idea of what to do, and he's changed the business, and it's worked before. Yes. Well, I guess time will tell if making superstars out of athletes versus wrestlers.
Yeah.
But I can see how it can be deflating for wrestlers who have grown up their life looking at WWE,
Right.
going to tryouts, and then kind of being told, yeah, well, we're really focused on athletes.
Yeah. And what blows me away is how he's saying he's using NXT now as like an old feed up program. And then Dolph Ziggler comes in and wins the title. That threw me for a loop. I'm like, I can't wait to see where it goes.
I think that probably all started when they tried to compete with AEW, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure it was all a ratings thing. And then,
Right.
of course, the fans make the ratings things more than what it really is. I mean, but, yeah. Yeah, WWE will be, I'm sure they'll be fine. And, you know, whatever happens to them, if they sell or stay within the family or whatever.
Right. How old's your daughter?
She's 13 now.
13. So who's her favorite? Just curious.
She likes Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we went to a show in Lowell, I must have been like the first person to buy tickets because we get the very corner of the ramp.
Oh, wow.
So I had bought her like the WWE loot crate, and she had Sasha's glasses. So Sasha comes down the ramp, turns, see her with the glasses, and I'm on my phone, and I look up, and I see Sasha to my right, and she's given her gimmick glasses for the day, and she turns around, and she's got these gold glasses on. I'm like, she just gave you her glasses? She's like, yeah.
Wow.
So the women behind us had a poster. So I had Ava put her hands on the poster, and I drew her hands like Bailey used to throw out her hands. So I did the poster, and it said, I Heart Bailey or something. So then Bailey gets down the ramp into the ring. She holds up the poster, and Sasha points to her, and she goes, hey, look. So she comes down. She gives my daughter her headband. So now she's got glasses and headband. Wow. And I was like, kid, you just walked out with 2 pieces of merch.
Yeah.
There's like 10,000 people in this building.
Right.
We'll walk out with nothing.
That's amazing. That is so cool.
She's kind of spoiled.
Yeah. And Sasha Banks, you know, local girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bailey from all the way in the West Coast.
Sasha was, so in my timeline, she was fit like into the area that I missed.
Okay.
She was too
Because
late.
you stepped away for a long
About 14
time.
years. Yeah. So I got married and had a kid. And then when she started getting back into wrestling, that's when I started getting back in. And Bob was running shows with Jeff Deland, who used to be Cesar Suave.
Yep.
So the two of them ran shows, and they wanted a referee, and I'll do anything. Bob and Sonny, if either of them call me, I'll be there.
Nice. I know you're back with APW.
I ran a show. Sonny called me, but the last show they had, referees are interesting. There aren't that many in the area.
Right.
So sometimes you have a home, right? So my homes are really NCW and Proving Ground.
Yep.
But, I've worked for, I did one show at New England Ring Gladiators.
Nice. For Davey and Shay.
Yep. I've done a couple of shows for Caleb.
Yep. New England All-Stars.
Yeah, back when, in the early time.
Another great guy who I want to get on this show.
Yeah.
Caleb. I need to get him on.
He's usually behind the camera, though.
Yeah, I know. I need to get him in front of the camera.
So I do a lot of one-offs, different groups.
Right.
I'm too old to do this to make it to WWE or AEW. Not my goal.
Right.
My goal is to help out. My goal has always been to help other people be successful in this business, however I can, right?
That's awesome.
If I can make them look better in the ring or help add something to the match from whatever experience I have, that's all I want. If you want to call me back, and you can call me back, I'll come. Right. But I'm not busting down people's doors. I'm spending time with my family if I'm not at a show, right? She's still 13.
Right.
She's still here. I want to have that time before she turns 18. And I physically just cry every day because she's leaving the house.
Tell me about it. My youngest is 20. She moved out of the house like a year and a half ago to go to college. And she's still in school right now. Matter of fact, she's in South Carolina seeing her best friend. So, all right. You were trained by Bob and stuff. Yep. You already said who was in the class. How about, tell us about your debut of reffing.
Oh, reffing? Oh,
yeah.
I don't even know if I remember. It was NECW at some point. I remember a lot of it being good times.
Okay, yeah.
Old good times.
Some of them.
I remember being trapped behind the black curtain back there. Oh, there's no way out. There was only one way out.
Right.
I remember a lot of crazy people, like drunk people yelling. But it was a good. People had a good time. I mean,
nice.
Those are the days of Sick Lagwell Brown, Bob and Alex, and a lot of good, and Mav. A lot of good wrestlers, a lot of, and I saw Mav ask a question about, I'll jump forward a little bit, about the difference between yesterday and today.
Yes.
Yeah, so back in that NCW day, I was a midget, right? There were a lot of giants.
Okay.
Right? There were a lot of like 6 foot plus people.
Right.
Right? That were tall, they were built, they competed. Mav was a brick. He was a brick. Everything was a brick.
dude.
Until you shook his hand, and he loves when I bring him up this. He had the lightest handshake, and it used to freak me out. But
He
Bob
probably
was
liked
tall.
to freak people. He likes freaking people out too.
Bob was tall. Slick Wagner Brown is tall, right? Everybody was a giant because that's kind of what Vince was looking for, and that's what people targeted.
Back then?
Al was smaller,
Right.
but still big.
Yes.
I think the smallest person I saw back then, before the backyard kind of got involved, was like Derek Destiny, and he was like 5'7".
Yeah.
And he wasn't super big, but you got Rick Fuller and all those guys, right? So back then people were bigger. So I was small. I was 5'7". So I was always the smallest person in the ring.
Right.
So I remember being small. I remember traveling a lot. I remember going up to, one of my favorite spots to work in was the Littleton Opera House.
Oh,
Do
nice.
you remember that?
Yep. WFA.
So I think Sheldon had the show there, and WFA both had shows there I worked for. And then Sheldon had a show in Berlin, New Hampshire, which was like an hour from the Canadian border, if not less. So I remember traveling a lot for that. And the same group of people, because like the WFA migration was like the people who kind of left NCW to go, NECW, to go to work for Steve.
Right.
And the last show that I think a lot of people worked on was maybe it was a little bit after, when Steve came back. So that was the show. I remember this one vividly because I'm in the back and Sonny goes, "Who's the referee?" And I said, "I am." He goes, "Okay, you're taking the chair shot." And he turned away and he looked away and I was like, "I'm sorry, what did you just say? What did he just say?" So I turned to Alex and I was like, "How do you do it?" He's like, "Well, you can take it, or you can take it and put your hands up and risk smashing your fingers." And I was like, "All right, here it goes." So of course, the whole time we're in NECW, it's Al versus Mav, and I'm always the referee. I was taking flying cross bodies from Al. First time I whacked my head, quickly learned how to tuck my chin really fast. And then, of course, I was the one that was getting it from Al, but Al was great.
Right.
And then Steve Bradley comes out as Santa Claus. That was the day.
I was there.
Yeah. So that was the day that it all happened.
Yeah.
So chair shot, roll out. They do a couple of things. Bradley comes up, but then Bradley makes his return, right? Yeah. And then that crew he opened his school shortly after,
right.
and Bob, and I think that's probably when the fallout happened, where then Bob kind of moved up to work for Steve. So then I kind of migrated out and worked for Steve for a very short period of time, and then punched out and came back 14 years later.
Wow.
But yeah, so those are some good days. There was some big kids, big boys.
Yeah.
Those are good times, and again, it's different. It was different back then, I think, because there were less promotions, but there was I don't think there was that much like fighting between people. I think they were friendly. Yeah. They all had their own cliques, kind of like today too. Yeah. Everybody has their own friends, but everybody kind of had a goal that they were trying to work for. They were competing with each other to get to that Vince spot, which is why they kept getting bigger and bigger and more trim and fit and they all wanted it. There was a big passion for that back then.
And now there's over probably 30 promotions in New England alone.
There's 6 in each county. Yeah.
And the average height of a wrestler nowadays is probably 5'9".
Yeah, so back to Mav's question, I think one big difference is wrestling. I think the backyard transformed in the early 2000s, really transformed the motion that wrestling is for everybody. Right. So you don't have to be those monsters anymore. And then, you combine that with some of the lucha, you come with the New Japan stuff where people aren't, they're still tall, but they're thinner in stature, but even though they're fit, they're not monsters, like the Vince monsters that he likes. And I think that's kind of how it started to evolve. And I'm not saying it's our group, but I think that's the time where wrestling became for everybody. And that's kind of what it is today, right? I mean, you got guys, at NCW and Prove It Ground, like Mike Montero and guys like that who are thinner, not as monsters, but put on a hell of a show. Unbelievable, yeah.
I mean that whole roster, everybody worked their ass off the other night.
Yeah, but you don't have to be massive anymore, right? It's changed. It's changed the sport.
Yeah.
So as long as it should be entertainment. That's what you go there for.
Right.
The flips and the great maneuvers and the great collection of matches is what people go for.
Right.
It's not as much the monsters anymore, I don't think.
What I noticed, and I'm a big fan of this kid, Alec Price. I saw him Saturday night, and then I saw him Sunday night. Now, most people would automatically, if you just saw him one match, you'd be like, that guy must do a lot of flips. For a smaller guy, he's tall,
Right.
But on the thin side, he doesn't do as many as most people would think he does.
Yeah.
He has that mat-based. He's just incredible. What do you think of Allen?
It's good too, and I think you talked about BRG last week too,
Oh,
right?
he's
Same
another
type
one.
body stature, muscular, but you know,
Yep.
thin and not super tall.
Right.
But same thing. You'd look like he would. I mean, I'm sure he can. I'm not saying he can't, but you would same thing. Where you would think that he was more of a flippy guy
Yeah.
because he's thinner and he's
he's
lighter.
not.
But they're both amazing workers, amazing wrestlers. Like tactical, can
Right.
put a match together. You know, the end of that match that you saw at NCW.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, in the back, starting to feel bad about what I was about to do, I started getting in the mood that I was feeling bad for what I was about to do when I got in the ring. Right. And knowing what was going to happen, it was he was great about it. I mean, they were both great about it. They both thought everything worked out exactly how it was.
Yep.
And that's always great when, you know, for me, when I can help contribute to what's going on, right?
Right.
Anytime I can add, I don't want to be the primary focus, which is why I was never going to be a wrestler.
Right.
And I was a promoter and a referee. I just kind of wanted to be there,
Yep.
but I didn't want to be the primary focus.
Right.
But if I can help out and occasionally get a little focus, as long as, you know, stupid ref, yelling at the ref, you're so dumb, count faster.
Right.
Those are all things that I know I'm doing my job right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I like to pick on the refs too. I do.
If I don't get any yells or anything, then I'm fine.
I got to ask you, why was Brett so mean to his father in the ring that night? That's what I kept yelling. It's your dad.
Brett's a heat magnet.
He is.
It's amazing. When we were first time before the pandemic, we were in Rhode Island, and he was in the ring yelling at people, and there are at least two drunk guys that came right up to the ring.
Oh, yeah.
And we're gonna get in the ring, and I was like, "Hey," he's like, "Don't worry, ref, it won't take long." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Like, you're gonna get in this ring,
and you're dead.
It's not gonna take long. It's not gonna take long." So yeah, that was the first time.
Right.
And then the second time was the thing that Todd talked about last week. The first time he flipped the kid had like 3 beers. He was bringing beers back to his friend, and he had no way of protecting his hat. And Brett just knocked his hat off. And the kid put his beers on the ring, and we're like, "Get the beers off the ring."
Right.
And he's like, "Dude, I was on your side." And then that whole
He's a
thing,
heel, dude.
that whole thing Todd talked about happened. I was just getting out of the ring. I opened the curtain and I see this whole thing. And I was like, "Did Brett get into a fight with someone?" And then realized it wasn't Brett getting into a fight. It was
Right.
people coming after, like not with another wrestler.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, it was. And then last week he flipped the guy's hat again. I was like, first thing I thought was, "Oh no, he would go again."
Yeah.
This
He
is gonna
loves flipping people's
oh,
hats.
It's
Especially if you're not looking. He'll do it to you if you're looking at him too.
he's a heat magnet. It's amazing. It's
Yeah, I don't want, it's hard to sit there and say, who they're like within a legend. But seriously, he reminds me a little bit of Piper. He does. Just the way he talks to people, he's a great heel.
He's got a condescending attitude sometimes.
Absolutely.
But that's part of his character.
Yeah. Well, we just brought up 2 really good young guys. I'd like to bring up a third real quick before we get back into this. Shannon Thomas.
Yeah, I love the Top Rope crew is great. Him, Little Mean Kathleen.
Yeah.
They produce a lot of guys. Scott is one of the new referees.
Okay.
A lot of good guys that come up and girls that come up and work in NCW.
Right.
Yeah, Channing, he went out and did that tryout, and I talked to him after, and he was like, he said he told me that he kind of got the hint that he wasn't going to go any further because of the change in direction.
Right.
Then I was like, oh, why would they waste his, but it's not a waste. He got the opportunity to go out. He got to do what he needed to do. He got that experience, right?
Yeah.
He's amazing. I think, he's a smart kid too.
Yeah,
He's
very
got
smart kid.
college degree, could do whatever he kind of wants.
Yep.
Channing's great. Like I said, all the top rope guys. And there are, the chaotic guys too. They come out, they're quality. Channing's got kind of a throwback too. Taller, well built, back to the days of what I was saying, like the Mav days and stuff like that, right? Where the taller, big built guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. He's going in beyond. He's world class, Shannon Thomas, with his manager, Sidney Bacabella.
Yeah.
They wrestled yesterday against Teddy Goods and Little Mean Kathleen.
When he wrestled Little Mean Kathleen, I was like, I don't understand how he's going to do it. And then, of course, the way the match ended, I was like, that is totally Sidney Bacabella's ending.
Yeah.
I was like, I should have known that's how it was going to end.
I loved it. She ripped his wig off He leaves. Shannon's like, where you going? All of a sudden I see he comes back, he's got a hat on. Now little me Kathleen put his hairpiece on her head. And then she took his hat and she's wrestling with him with his wig and his hat on. It was pretty awesome. Drew puts on great shows, and Biff Busick made his return.
Yes.
To be on wrestling, and I paid for a picture. And then I took a picture with him, right? A signed picture. I left it on his table. So.
Well, he's coming back.
Yes, he is.
So Chad Epic has a show, Colonial Wrestling. He's coming back. I think he's wrestling Matt Cardona.
Oh, wow. Really?
Show in Gloucester. Yeah. I think it's August.
Chad, why didn't you tell me about this? Who's doing your concessions, Chad? Try to get work, you know?
Chad.
Yeah, Chad, because you know it's good.
Yeah, so he's bringing Biff back, and I think he's wrestling Matt Cardona.
Nice. That's going to be an incredible match.
Yeah, it's in an ice rink, so he's going to have to sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah,
so
going to have
a big
to.
One. Yeah.
All right, let's real quick. We're going to go through your EWA real quick, talk about it.
Sure, yeah.
What made you want to start that?
Well, I didn't want to be a wrestler. So, and I was one of the only people that had a professional job. You know, I had a job coming out of college.
Right.
And had money to do it. So as being part of the group and wanting to succeed, and I kind of was a natural kind of like leader and program, project manager type thing.
Right.
That was my role, right? So I was the one that, booked the venues, did the posters. Again, graphic design guy, right? So did the posters and let them train, right? And then the thought was I would pay for the shows and the crew would, the locker room would sell the tickets so that we could continue running shows. So after like the third or fourth show, it started dwindling.
Yeah.
And there were one or two people that really sold shows and it just started dwindling off. And the final show, I had Simon Diamond and Don Marie and then one of the kids who was a trainee at the time went to the high school where we were having it at. He's like, I can get 100 kids. I was like, okay. So I went and I got Tony Atlas.
Yeah.
And then that day we had like 163 people at the show. And it was like 3 high school kids and not the 100.
Right.
So it was at that point where I was like, all right, I did this for 7 shows for over 2 years.
Right.
It was a good way to go. But the amount of money I lost that day was a mortgage payment. And I was like, that's...
And it's sad because 163 is not really a bad crowd for independent, but if you're bringing in people with names, that's where you get hurt.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
When you run a school, it's the janitor.
Yeah.
It's a police officer. It's a paramedic.
Yeah.
So those 3 things add up fast.
Yeah.
And not necessarily, but it contributes to, then you bring in a name, and Pat and Don Marie or Simon Diamond, who were great. They were both great.
They were a couple at the time, weren't they?
I think they were dating. I don't think they were ever married.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just after ECW ended. He walked up and I was like, wow, you look great. He's like, well, I've had some time off. And I was like, oh no, I didn't mean that as an insult.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you look good.
I've always liked Simon Diamond. I love this character in ECW. A lot of people kind of crapped on it, but I thought he was great.
Yeah, he worked with Bob that night. Did good. I mean, that was the whole thing. It was to bring him in. I wasn't never going to give him the title, right? It was just a matter of that. But I think that's kind of the way that, there were 2 ways of doing it. You could build your own homegrown talent.
Yep.
Or you could bring in names to augment your talent to try to get more people interested, right? So I tried it, but promoting I encourage any wrestler who wants to complain about a promoter to try promoting. I know AG did promoting, and I know
he did a pretty good job too.
I know, and I know Calvin and Delmy are doing it now, so they're all getting tastes of what it's like to be on the other side, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. There's a lot of anxiety because you put a lot of money up front.
Right.
Like a wrestler comes in, waits for their money, they get to go. But rarely do promoters these days ever say, well, I didn't make it, so I'm not giving it to you, right?
Right.
You get paid anyway.
Yep.
Right? So, back then it was really like, we didn't make any money, so I can't give you any. Like,
what am I supposed to do? I mean, yeah, exactly.
Right. So, back then it was, and that was me too. There may have been other promoters that that paid up front. APW pays up front, like when you get there, which is great. And I think Todd does that now based on that. He saw that. So you get paid right up front, no matter what happens. You guarantee your pay. It's a sign of honesty and goodwill.
And who's he gonna go work for next time? The guy that paid him the money, I think, or the guy that's also saying, hey, I can't give you the $50, but here's 20.
Yeah. It was being a promoter. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of anxiety. Who's gonna come?
Right.
I pay for this building. I pay for this guy to come, and I have 12 front row pre-sales.
Right.
And back then there was no pre-sales. It was only at the door.
Yeah. Wow.
I had one show.
Do you wish you could have been doing it now? Do you wish the times were different and you were
we
doing
didn't have
it now?
social media.
Right.
There were message forums. That's what it was. It wasn't
Right.
social media.
Yep.
It was random messages forums. So, I had a website, but how do you get people there?
Right.
And now you have Google Ads. You have all kinds of outlets for that. But now, unlike then, now you have so many groups.
Right.
No matter what you do, everybody else is doing that too.
Yeah.
So now it becomes what your product is what makes you stand out, because your advertising method is different.
Right.
But I mean, back then you had all kinds of different things, like crazy things like when we first started, we had a ring from the Mess brothers out in Pennsylvania.
Troy and Mark.
Thank you. Yes. And Ronnie was their manager. So he used to come up here.
Nasty Ronnie? Was that his name?
He was a manager. He had a chain.
I want to say it's
white
Nasty
suit.
Ronnie,
Yeah.
I think.
So one day, they were late. And back then it was like flip phone, cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we're late. Okay, where are you? We're broken down in Waltham. I'm sorry, what? So I take the car. There are people waiting outside. Take the car, drive up Waltham. I'm out about 4th Avenue in Waltham. I don't know if anybody knows where that is. But yeah, there's their truck, like in the middle of the highway, broken down, overheated. So eventually they got it going. I had to let people into the building.
Yeah.
Because we had Kevin's guardrails. So everybody was sitting in the seats by the time the Mess brothers got there, and they get to watch the ring be assembled. I mean, you don't get much more of a nightmare than that. Because it was cold outside, we had to let people in. There's no ring.
Right.
They're just looking at an empty spot.
Well, Mark was coming up all the time doing shows at the PAV. Oh. With the Logans. Well,
that's
back
probably
when the Logans first started.
That's interesting. Because so mine would have been about 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
And I think the Logans came in about that time they started, right?
It was right around that time, 2001, 2002. And I remember going to the show and walking up to Mark Mess going, hey, I'm Mark Mess, right? Or I think I asked him, are you Mark or Troy? And he's like, you know who I am? I'm like, yeah, because I'm a magazine kid. Anybody that was anybody, I knew who they were. You know what I mean? If they were in the magazine, I used to read those things from cover to cover.
Yeah, and then we had shortly after that, we went to Kevin's ring, and then we started bringing the Springfield guys in with that. So
that's Idol, Morrison, Jonas.
No
Hammer, no Hammer.
No, Dan Gore.
Yep.
Yeah, so he came in. He was.
I think people are upset at him right now.
Yeah, I think
all over Facebook. It's not good. I don't know Dan. So
he may have.
I have no problems with him.
I haven't talked to him in years. But yeah, so he came in. He had his necromancer gimmick. So we brought them. So the good thing about that is that when we had Mark, we had the two of them. They were our tag champs for a bit. But when we got Kevin, then we had Kevin. We had all the guys that came with them, and that kind of augmented the roster. So it was good to have it. But it gave our guys good, trained people to work with to help grow. Right. And again, so when I left and I kind of went to work with Sheldon and Steve for a bit, they kind of started doing their own thing, which then, Atlee and Turbo Tim Fury.
Yep.
So they kind of did their own thing, and that kind of worked its way into Elkmania eventually years later, right? So it kind of spawned off of that.
Involved. Ryan Andrews got involved.
Ryan, yep. So that's how that kind of spawned off from there. They were the other group. My group merged with their group before training.
Right.
And then
that
they
was
all
the
went into training.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So that was good. It was
that's awesome.
It was a good pairing. It was just weird that people found him. Yeah. Like email. Bob just emailed a bunch of people. And Bob will give me credit for saying that the Hangs with Bob wouldn't have started if I didn't respond to that email, because he wouldn't have had a group. But really, it's my buddy JL, because I was like, hey, this guy, Bob Evans, he messaged me, do we want to start? And my buddy JL's like, yes. Nice. So I was like, all right, I'll email him back.
That's cool.
Then later find out, Bob's like, JL and Bob's like, yeah, JL used to stalk me at Strawberries. So Bob used to work at Strawberries in Nashua, and JL used to come every once in a while. He's like, I think JL used to stalk me. And JL's like, yeah, I did go to see him a couple of times. So that's how. So JL was like, yes, we should work with him, and that's really. I'll give credit to JL. JL's the one that started it.
All right, so and we just talked about your last show and stuff. Why don't we jump into when you came to Nashua to start training?
Yeah,
with Sonny.
So that was when I met Sonny.
And who was the other trainer? It
was Bob.
Bob.
Yeah, they built like a wooden ring. And it was interesting. I think there was like a karate. Pretty sure it was like a karate dojo that shared the space with us. Right. So that was fun. It was interesting. And then just normal late nights there. That's when and then Sonny started running shows. Yeah. So I did a couple shows for Sonny. And met from there, met, he had like Captain Lou at one of his shows. He had Chris Candido at one of his shows with Sonny. And the two of them worked, he worked with Alex Arian.
Yeah.
And I remember in the match, he had Al in an abdominal stretch. And Candido looks at me and he goes, do something. And I was like, I don't know. So he was holding Sonny's hand on the outside, right, to get the extra leverage. So eventually I was like, all right. So third time he did it, I rolled around, I kicked her hand, and then he just kind of like dropped down. He looks at me, he goes, do something better next time. And I was like, just tell me what you want me to do. So, you know, hint to all the wrestlers, if you want a referee to do something, just tell him what you want him to do.
Right.
Yeah, because I could have done whatever he wanted. He was like, do something. I was like, well, this is what I think I should do, right? You see that, you kick it, and everybody goes, oh, hey, you prevented them from, but Al didn't like spring him over or anything. I was like, yeah, so communication is key. Like, tell me.
Was that the only time you got to work with Candido?
Oh, yeah.
What a legend, man.
Yeah.
One of the most well-liked guys to ever step into professional by the wrestlers themselves.
And even then, he was hurt. Like, I think he had like a cane or a crutch or something. He was walking out, and he still worked that match.
He's an amazing worker.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to think about what you do to yourself too, right? Back to the old the ECW thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he pushed through it, and he and Al had, from what I recall, obviously Al almost always had a great match. Like Mav, those guys always had good matches.
Oh, always, no doubt.
Yeah. So that morphed into Sonny running shows, and that kind of how that went. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, we're gonna jump over to the ref spots.
Yeah.
You got any good at spots? I know you gave us one with the
chair shot. Yeah.
And the other, and the one with kick of the hand, Sonny's hand.
Yeah. So then the cross bodies with Al whacking my head the first time.
Where you said you learned quick.
Yeah, learned. Yeah, second time we did that spot, I tucked my chin before he even hit me.
I
made sure that happened.
Ask people, how hard is that to remember just to constantly? But I guess once you whack your head real hard, you learn quick.
Yeah, but for wrestlers, they're trained.
Right.
They're trained to do that. For a referee,
and you're trained to not fall in real life.
Yeah. I remember hearing Taz say, like, you better understand that if I fall in the grocery store, I'm tucking my chin, right? Something like that. Yeah. So those spots. I mean, the fun spots are. AG had one where he's like, all right, I'm gonna throw you in the corner and I'm gonna chop you. And he goes, then I want you to take me, grab me, throw me in the corner, you chop me, and do a Ric Flair strut to the middle of the ring. I'm like, are you crazy? Really? He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, okay. So he did it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I took a picture of his like chop on my chest, right? Just so I had memory. And then I see like, I don't know, like a couple months ago, he did it with Tony. And then he did it like a couple weeks ago with the guy in Maine. And I was like, I thought I was special.
No, it works so well with you that he wanted to keep doing it.
But then it goes back to like, I think of Bob, right? So Bob does the same spots when he travels state to state, pick a referee up, put him in an airplane, spin by mistake. Like he'll get all dizzy, grab you, pick you up, put you in, and you're like, hey, let me down.
That's pretty
So
funny.
then it's like, yeah, I get it. It's a spot that works, and he's proven that it works, and he's tested it, he's seen how the crowd reacts, and it goes over, so he uses it. But I was like, hey, I felt special when he did that.
Anthony Green is one of the most creative wrestlers out there right now.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Everybody should go get an autograph from him to support him.
Yes. And remember the balloons one?
Yes. Off the rope at Evolve.
That was unbelievable. And then he used it to dive through he kept hanging on to the balloon. Just a creative genius in my eyes.
Yeah, there are a lot. I mean, he happened to have more exposure too, right?
Right.
Being able to get to Evolve and then to NXT and then AEW and do stuff there. I mean, there are people who are local that you could still go out and see that have super creativity too.
Oh, absolutely.
You just got to get out. You can't just watch TV.
Right.
Like you got to support the independents and get out and see it.
Always support the indies.
Like this Saturday with tons of shows on. Get out and go see them, especially Proving Ground where I'll be.
Go see Craig at Proving Ground. You can come see me at Pop-Up Wrestling. You can go see my girl Maria at APW. And I can't remember the other company that's running. Sorry. Go see them.
Yeah.
Whoever it is.
So for wrestling spots, I mean, there are smaller ones too. The old ref.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to see this type thing. But all of them are adding to the story, right?
Right.
We talk about this as referees and there's a referee Facebook group, right? So, occasionally it comes up about how like tag team wrestling has changed. It's kind of like in some respect, you think about what the referee is there for. And if you let the tag teams be in the ring for a period of time, then what happens, right? So you kind of got to be flexible because you got to realize that the way the sport is moving, it doesn't always abide by the rules of yesteryear, right? So you got to be able to be flexible and figure out how to manipulate that, whether you go out of the ring, follow them around for a little bit so you don't pressure the count, and work with it, right? So there's all kinds of communication, but the spots are, I think a lot of referees are trained by wrestlers now. And they're not trained to do referee. They're trained stay in the horseshoe so you don't put your back to the camera and count to 3. But there's so much more to that.
Right.
It's about adding to the story. It's about using your past experiences to enhance what they have. It's really about about ad hoc interactions too, and improvisation, right? And trying to get it and communicating with people, and passing notes back and forth, right? And there's a lot of techniques from the old days that people don't do. And this, like I talked to new referees, and I'm like, they ever teach you about the triangle? No, I don't know what the triangle is.
I don't even know. What's
so the triangle is back in the old day before there was camera.
Yeah.
The referee, and I do this today.
Okay.
The referee positions himself in the triangle with the wrestlers at all times.
Right.
Right. And you do that because when the wrestlers lock up, they're either going to move back and forth, right, or left and right, but they're going to change position. So you'll always put yourself in a spot where they're going to be able to see you, and not hit you. Because if they get into a headlock and somehow they move back where you were, you just rotate around and now you're trying to triangle with them again. Because they throw them off the ropes and then they're going to split.
Right.
And now you're back in the triangle. So the idea is to stay at that third point as long as you can.
Right.
So, or as many as, so that's why when I rotate around, if you see me, I'm trying to put myself into the triangle. But before TV, the old days, the wrestlers used to mess with the referees.
Yeah.
And they would circle at the beginning of the match. So then the referee would have to continue to circling with them and keep going around and around because they had to maintain the triangle.
That's the first I've ever heard of the triangle.
Yeah, but now it's more complicated because you're trying to stay out of the camera view.
Right.
So instead of rotating all around, you have to kind of work your way back the other direction.
Right.
Because you're working the horseshoe at the same time.
Wow. Yeah. I've had a lot of refs on, and you're the first one that brought up the triangle.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Scott Dickinson that told me about that, or that was Sonny. Might have been both.
Okay. You know something? We're going to run. I got fan questions, and I got to ask a few of them because we got one right there. First, though, Todd Graham, talk about your times as a booker.
Right, so we kind of covered that.
A little bit.
It's crazy. If you want to try it, go for it.
Right.
There's a lot of work to it. I actually, for my master's program, I designed a mobile app for independent wrestling.
Oh, wow.
And talked to promoters and talked to wrestlers and kind of merged it all together, right? So you got a better understanding. When you talk to the other side, if you're a wrestler or a referee or a manager, and you talk to a promoter and you try to empathize with what they do, it kind of changes your outlook on it, right? Because there's a lot of risk on both sides. I mean, they're risking their life, they're risking their money.
Right.
Both are not equally important. Your life is way more important, but both are equally risking something in some respect, right?
Yeah.
And they're risking their life that if they go broke doing this thing, then they have no money.
Wow.
So you got to understand both the complexities of you being 10 minutes late makes them think, oh crap, are they going to get here on time? And what am I going to do if they don't get here? Because traffic is a thing.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
Right. So there's different anxiety on both sides and understanding that. So being a promoter, it's the anxiety is everything going to go right? Are people going to like what I'm doing?
Right.
Right. There's all kinds of things and you never know. And it depends on the crowd. Sometimes you have crowd that sit on their hands and it's like, why do you come to the show if you're going to sit on your hands?
Yeah.
Like be part of it.
Nothing like a hot crowd like they were in Dedham.
Yeah.
That was a hot crowd, not a huge crowd, but you sold out pretty much.
We had to add seats.
Yeah,
we
were
ran
adding
out,
seats, and that's always a good thing.
Never a bad thing.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, now let's see what else we got here. Do you ever have anyone kind of be a dick to you after reffing their matches?
Yeah, but you know what? I tried to diffuse it.
Good.
And sometimes it just doesn't diffuse. It's just people, maybe somebody like whacks their head and gets upset, and they're really maybe upset with the fact that it happened.
Yeah.
If I screw up, you can be upset with me. There's nobody who's going to be harder on me than me.
Right.
I will, for a week or two after, if I do something wrong, I will not get over it. It'll take me a month, and then I'll eventually kind of get over it and pass it. But there's nobody who's going to get more pissed off at myself than me.
Right.
But sometimes things happen in the ring, and you have misguided anger, or and it is what it is. You move on. It's happened, but some people I make up with, some people I don't. I'm only here to help.
Right.
If you want to be upset with me, that's fine. I'm not here. I'm the least political person that you'll ever find.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Listen, we only got a little over 3 minutes. We got a lot of fan questions still, but I can already tell you, you're going to have to come back. Seriously, because we've just scratched the surface with you. Seriously.
Huh?
You know what I mean? We got to play the name game and all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, boy.
You know?
All right.
Why don't we plug the stuff and I'll throw a name or two at you at the end.
Okay.
You want to plug, you want to go first with the AGs?
Saturday, AG's got a comic signing in Danvers, right?
Yep,
Nick's Comics in Danvers, so go help him, show him some love, and then come to one of the shows, preferably ours, at Proving Ground, where you'll see me, and show us some love there.
And that's in Peabody.
Peabody and then AG will be there. And then Sean Leader is wrestling for the heavyweight title.
Yes.
Against
the ace,
Mike Montero. So that should be a wonderful match, I'm sure. We'll have the Hispanic Mechanics will be back up defending their tag titles.
Kellen Thomas is making his Proving Ground debut.
His debut, Frank Bones, I think he's working with.
Was he wrestling Frank Bones?
I think that's what it was, yep.
So, is he from Lowell? Frank Bones? I was going to say, I never knew him when I lived in Lowell. I'm a lot older than Frank. A lot older.
You knew the Middlesex Express, I'm sure, then.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Great guys. Great guys. All right, real quick, too, and then on same date, next Saturday, Pop-Up Wrestling is in Billerica. You can go to Pop-Up Wrestling on our Facebook, check it all out. And then we got 2 upcoming NCW shows. March 25th in Bristol, Rhode Island. And on April 8th, they'll be back in Dedham, and I'll be at that one.
Excellent.
I have to come back.
It
was an incredible show.
It's a good time. When that place is full, it's a good time. Like I said, if you have a crowd that's sitting on their hands, it's not good.
Right.
When you have a good crowd, there are lots of people have good crowds, right?
Right.
And those are the ones that you need to keep, and those are the ones that you need to kind of sell.
Right.
Those are the videos you post online, the ones you share online.
So name right, real quick, John Casey. We're talking about NCW.
Yeah, I think JC and we have so much in common going back to the ECW days.
Right.
I just shoot off random stuff to him. Same thing with Todd. They're both very open, easy to talk to. Just to shoot stuff off. Sometimes, Todd and I will go back and forth on stuff. Sometimes I'll offer stuff up to JC.
Right.
They're open, just knowing that I've been around for a while. I love JC. Yep.
Who's the best wrestlers you've ever refed for? Well, Candido has to be one of them. Right?
But I'm going to talk about the people I know.
Yeah, good. That's what this is about. Local.
That old group of NECW, the Sheldon's group.
Yeah.
Alex Arians. Brian Fury's. I was back when he had to been like 20 back then.
Right.
They all had a lot of good group of people. And then today, a lot of the guys out of Rhode Island, the Dirt City guys, all 4 group, like mixture
Ricky
of really
is good too.
Talented wrestlers and some comedy.
Yeah.
Great pairing of 4.
Yep.
Foxy Calvin Campbell, coming out of Chaotic originally. Great
Doc
guy.
Ozo.
A lot of good guys. Oh, yeah.
Love Doc.
Oh, boy. He loves everybody.
Well, and we have something in common, me and Doc. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. So a lot of good talent, a lot of good guys, different era, right? But different skills and different reasons to love them both.
Nice. Craig, you come back soon?
Sure. You can have me with Sonny or somebody. We'll pair it up next time.
Thank you, Craig,
You're
so
welcome.
much. We're out. Peace. Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Listen, I could use a little help to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe. That's most importantly, subscribe. Send me a direct message, and I'll give you a shout out here on the show. My YouTube channel is real simple. It's just my name, Leo Connors. Thanks in advance. Peace.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.